Welcome everybody, Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. Welcome to the Sunday DFS show. It is October 10th, and we are heading into week 5 of the NFL season. Listen, guys, at this point, you should have a winning record, hopefully, in your year long. I'm hoping you guys are 4-0. 3-1, whatever it is, as long as you guys are winning, that's really, really good stuff. But today I want to talk about some DFS. Now, a lot of people are playing DraftKings, a lot of people playing FanDuel. I want to make sure you guys are fully armed going into week 5 here. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about DraftKings lineups, FanDuel lineups, DFS week 5 for NFL fantasy football, okay? Before we get into this, guys, make sure you guys do smash a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Also, leave some of your starts and sits questions. I'll get to some starts and sits week 5 questions below to help you out. And also, if you're in year long, this is going to also help you guys with your year-long leagues as well, because I'm giving you some optimal players at each position and some value plays at each position, okay? So if you got that player that's a value play here, you hear him, oh, well, Joe says he's a value this week. He's got a good matchup. Well, maybe you might be able to consider starting him in your year-long as well, okay? I want to get you guys prepared. We're going to go through every position here, but again, please smash that thumbs up. It really does help the channel. Also, very, very important announcement, guys. Listen, check this out. Fantasy conversation, guys. Live during games. Not only that, reality talk with football. So there's an app called Flick Chat, okay? So it's called Flick Chat, and it's called Fantasy Sports Chat. You guys can go into the room with me, guys, and chat. I do polls, I do quizzes, I do giveaway. I just gave away $100. There's a link here below on YouTube. I've pinned it. The room is called Fantasy and Sports Chat, and it's in the app called Flick Chat. So if you're listening in the car, download the app Flick Chat and join the room, guys. Fantasy and Sports Chat. You'll see my face there. And it's an amazing community. So make sure you guys join the community, okay? It's a lot of fun. We could chat during games. Again, polls, quizzes, and giveaways. It's phenomenal, okay? All right, let's start off with the quarterback position here. Now, obviously, Lamar is expensive. He's playing Cincinnati. He's $7,900 on DraftKings, but he has the 8th hardest matchup versus position. Now, he could basically throw and do pretty well and run. He does it all. But the thing is, Cincinnati, their secondary isn't that bad. That's the issue, right? So that's why he's kind of slated here as a tougher matchup, but he's coming off a hot week. Now, their rush defense sucks, Cincinnati. So maybe, again, he's going to get some rushing yards on the ground. So whatever he's doing, he's getting in the air, on the ground. If he can't get it done on the ground, right? Or if he does get it done on the ground, he may not get it done in the air. Either way, Lamar Jackson has a tougher matchup, and he is expensive, so be cautious with him. I'm personally not going to be playing him this week. I like Russell Wilson. He is a little bit cheaper. He's $7,600, and he's got a mid-range matchup, okay, against Minnesota. So Russell, I like a little bit more. Russell's been a little bit hotter throughout the season, okay? So let's move on here. Pat Mahomes, again, mid-range matchup, very expensive on DraftKings and FanDuel. Dak Prescott, 6th hardest matchup versus position. $7,400, expensive. Kyler Murray, 7th hardest versus position, and he's basically $7,200 here on DraftKings, okay? Now, you're saying, well, Joey's playing the Jets. Well, sometimes when I look at these guys, the matchups are a little bit tougher versus position, okay? And that's what I've got here from my analytics. I've pulled it up. It may mean that the secondary is a little bit tougher, right? Maybe they've, done better against quarterbacks in certain situations, okay? So that's what you want to be aware. I want to make sure you guys know who the optimal, easy peasy matchups are. And I'll give you one right now, is Teddy Bridgewater versus Atlanta. Amazing matchup coming off a hot week, and he's $5,900. He's a solid value play at the quarterback position. Kirk Cousins, he hasn't been red hot, but good matchup versus Seattle. I'm looking at defenses that give up a lot of points for that quarterback, and that's what you got to look at. Phillip Rivers versus Cleveland. Now, Rivers hasn't been red hot. I personally wouldn't start him, but he's $5,800 on DraftKings. Drew Brees, easy matchup versus the Chargers. Jimmy Garoppolo versus Miami. He's supposed to be back this week. Be cautious with him because hopefully he does play and he's fully healthy, okay? Herbert versus New Orleans as well. Joe Burrow has a pretty easy matchup as well against the secondary of Baltimore, okay? So just keep that in mind when you are looking at this, guys. Some of these guys do have good matchups. And it's not necessarily the defense is bad. It's just that they've been giving up a lot of points for quarterbacks and certain positions, right? So you got to take that into consideration when I'm giving you guys the optimal plays. Let's move on to the running back position here. Guys, this is very, very simple. When I'm looking at the position optimizer here and the work that I've done, when you look at the running back position, you got to look at volume, you got to look at opportunity, and you got to look at consistency. These are very important factors and criteria when starting a guy. So when you're looking at a Zeke Elliott mid-range matchup, playing the Giants. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, arguably the easiest matchup versus position. So I want to make a note here, some easy matchups. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, James Robinson, easy matchup. Todd Gurley coming off that 2-touchdown week. He has it pretty easy, okay? Keep him on your radar. David Johnson. I think this is the week of both David Johnson and Todd Gurley. My guys to really tear it up. Kenyon Drake been crap in the bed, but he does have an easy matchup versus the Jets' rush defense. Now, again, Kenyon Drake, if he doesn't do it this week, he will be considered the biggest bust of the season. He's been doing nothing, and that is a waste of a second-round pick. I told you, stay away from him. Be cautious, okay? Other guys that have easy matchup, Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards and those guys, Dobbins, that trio. But again, I don't trust these guys. They are playing Cincinnati. We've seen Cincinnati act like Swiss cheese against running backs. But again, it's a three-headed monster. Who do you start? Again, this is where you look at a guy like Dobbins at 4,300, possible value play, and you may want to possibly consider him. But again, he could go off, but I doubt it because Mark Ingram is getting that goal line work, so be cautious there. Mike Davis has been consistent. Got a pretty decent matchup versus Atlanta. And again, like I said, Zeke Elliott, mid-range matchup. Josh Jacobs, mid-range matchup against KC. So take a look at those mid-range matchup guys. Guys you may want to consider being cautious about is Myles Gaskin versus San Fran. Be cautious there. Kareem Hunt has a tough matchup this week, but I think Indy's defense is a little banged up. I read their defensive player. I can't remember his name off the top. I'm going to pull this guy up. But anyway, he's injured. So either way, Kareem Hunt is the guy. Tough matchup, but again, Indy a little bit banged up, and he's going to be the guy. Now, D'Ernest Johnson could be a value play at $4,700, who came in and kind of replaced Nick Chubb to some degree. I don't know if that's going to continue, but D'Ernest Johnson's a guy you may want to consider as a value play, but he has a tough matchup, guys, like I said. Jonathan Taylor, 10th hardest matchup versus position against Cleveland's rush defense. Is he going to get the volume? Are they going to work Hines? Very, very risky, right? And then Cam Akers is supposed to be back today, this weekend against Washington. So Cam Akers is a guy you may want to consider, but banged up ribs, so he may be limited. But again, another guy that's got some upside, but huge risk, okay? Moving on to wide receivers, guys. Now let's give you some optimal plays. Darius Slayton, who hasn't really wowed us, easy matchup against Dallas. They've been good at giving up a lot of points to wide receivers. T.Y. Hilton, finally an easy matchup, but he's been crap in the bed in year long. I'm almost considering benching him. He's done nothing. Phillip Rivers just not targeting him. Kind of going to Pascal a little bit more. Mo Alley Cox, other targets there. Greg Ward, a good value play here as well. $4,600, got an easy matchup here versus Pittsburgh. Now, in regards to Greg Ward, again, a huge risk with these wide receivers when you are looking at the Philadelphia Eagles wide receivers, because again, I don't know what Carson Wentz is up to. I don't know if I fully trust him. Very, very cautious with those guys. Other guys that have good matchups here. Now, actually, I got to make a note here. Odell had a pinnacle game last week. Everyone's going to be like, I got to start Odell, and he's $6,400 on DraftKings. 38 points last week, but he does have a tough matchup versus Indy secondary, okay? Who else has got a good matchup? Let me pull this up here again. Again, let's go some more good matchups here at wide receiver. Robbie Anderson, good matchup. He's been red hot. Again, I said prior to the season, Robbie Anderson's the guy everybody kept going with. DJ Moore in the third or fourth round. I'm like, no, guys, get Robbie Anderson for free later. He's been outperforming DJ Moore. Love him against Atlanta this week. Another guy I may want to consider starting. And when you're looking at these guys, 12th hardest matchup versus position, or 12th easiest, I should say, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup versus the Giants. Dallas have a decent matchup, but who is the wide receiver there? Who's going to get the volume? That's the problem. There's just too many mouths to feed, so I have a hard time trusting those guys, okay? I do like this mid-range matchup for this guy, Deontay Johnson, $5,600 coming back. I think he comes back strong. Another guy that's kind of got that boom-bust with Big Ben. He could come in strong. I'll give you some other tough matchups now, and again, when you look at tough matchups, be cautious. Be careful with all Las Vegas Raiders wide receivers. They haven't been performing. Be cautious there. In regards to Rams wide receivers, I do have it a little bit tougher with Washington, second hardest versus position. Be careful there. Terry McLaurin, they've got a new quarterback in. Allen should be coming in, so you want to be a little bit aware and cautious. There is some boom or bust potential with Washington players all around, with Kyle Allen getting the start there for the Washington football team there, okay? So Terry McLaurin is a guy that could boom or bust. And then Atlanta versus Carolina, they got a little bit tough with the wide receivers, but Ridley should be the guy. I think Julio's still banged up. Hopefully Ridley has a good game. He crapped the bed last week. I know you're a little concerned, but it could be a good bounce back week for him. But again, he's still expensive at $7,500 for Calvin Ridley, which is insane because DraftKings knows knows he's probably due. All right, so I'm going to move on to the tight end position. So again, guys, when you are doing your DraftKings lineups or DFS or whatever it is, or FanDuel, you got to understand that you got to roll the dice on some value plays and also roll the dice on guys that had a low week last week that could emerge this week. So you got to find the sweet spot and figure it out from there, because I'm telling you guys, sometimes they have a bad week and they come back and they bounce back the week after. Ian Thomas, easy matchup. Eric Ebron, easy matchup. Coming off that week when they played last, Ebron had 16 points. Tyler Higbee, coming off that amazing game like 3 weeks ago. Higbee now has another good matchup, very favorable this week against Washington. Consider grabbing him. Mo Alley-Cox, Jack Doyle, also good matchup. Looks like Mo Alley-Cox is that red zone target. Jordan Atkins has been getting some volume there with Houston. Houston must-win game. Jordan Atkins is a great play at $3,300 this week. I like him. Drew Samples also got a good match with Cincy against Baltimore. They play tight ends a little bit weaker, so maybe Sample might get some work this week, right? He could be that boom player, $3,700. You may want to consider him, okay? Tough matchups. Coming off a good week last week, Austin Hooper against Indy. Be cautious. Mike Gesicki. Again, Mike Gesicki had a tough matchup last week, but could be in line to eat, right? But he is playing San Fran's D. They play tight ends tougher, but coming off a low week, and, you know, sometimes these guys could surprise you. Travis Kelce, I mean, how could you not start him? $6,400, expensive on DraftKings, but he's got the fourth hardest matchup versus position against the Raiders, so you want to be careful. Same with Kittle. I mean, how do you sit him off a 40-point week, 43-point week last week? Kittle, sixth hardest matchup versus position against Miami's defense versus tight end. How do you sit them? I mean, Kittle and Kelce, tough matchups, but how do you not start them? Especially in year long, you got to play them. Hayden Hurst, tough matchup versus Carolina. Be cautious with him. And finally, Mark Andrews, 11th hardest matchup versus position against Cincy. 21 points last week. And again, he has proven that he can be boom or bust week in, week out. And again, in year long, you probably invested a third or fourth round pick. I stayed away from those tight ends early, and I'm getting that value out of guys like Hawkinson and other guys. Even like that talent, what's the guy from Green Bay? Tonyan. I mean, look at him, right? Nobody drafted him. He's crushing it. Always wait on tight end in year long. All right, so that is your DFS, guys, your optimal plays at each position. I'm going to give you guys a couple defenses that I really, really like this week. I do like the Cowboys versus the Giants, must start. I like Steelers versus Philly. I do like Rams versus Washington, simply because of Kyle Allen coming in. I don't really trust them. And the rest of that is pretty much a crapshoot. Those are the guys I like. Indy's been pretty consistent. They are playing Cleveland, and Cleveland has been doing pretty good, so you might want to be cautious with them as well. Again, when you guys are playing DFS, okay? When you are playing DFS, you got to take some risks sometimes. Like I said, Kyle Allen's coming in. Could tear it up this week. He's $4,100 on DraftKings. You got to take some risks. Now, with the quarterback position, I like to anchor my quarterbacks with solid quarterbacks and running backs. I take my risks more of the wide receiver position. And sometimes when you're in those GPPs, there's like 50, 100,000 people in there. It's harder to win. It really is. You got to get that perfect lineup. So you may want to enter multiple lineups. You may want to, just take more risks in those matchups, secure some solid players. And if you guys are in the head-to-head matchups where there's less people or just head-to-head, that's when you want to play it a little bit safer. But again, there's no such thing as safer, right? Because you have guys like Mark Andrews who drafted in the third round putting up 3 or 4 points, and Tonyan going off putting up 3 touchdowns a game. You got to just go with the best gut feeling, matchup, optimal play, and also look at volume when you're picking any player, okay, guys? Whether it be year-long or DFS. That's it, guys. DFS week 5. I can't believe we're 5 weeks in already. Listen, smash thumbs up, leave some starts and sits question below, and join the Flick Chat group below. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you. Have yourself a great weekend. Again, tune in tomorrow morning for the last minute news and notes here on the #1 fantasy football podcast on the planet. Thanks, guys, for being here. I'm out.